There are not many retail chains that create the kind of love and loyalty that Aldi has built with its customers. For years, Aldi has been the place Americans turned to when they wanted to save money while still buying products they could trust. A 25-cent coin, a shopping cart, familiar items sitting on the shelves. That used to be the simple formula that brought millions of families back to Aldi every week. But Aldi in 2026 is changing. The brand is expanding faster, changing the look of its products, bringing more technology into the shopping experience, and serving customers who expect more than they did before. And right when Aldi is growing stronger than ever, a difficult question is starting to appear: can Aldi become bigger while still keeping the things that made people love it? Today, let's explore the changes happening inside Aldi, from what customers see on the shelves to the tensions behind this growth. Because this is not just a story about a supermarket chain. This is a battle between growing bigger and keeping the things that make customers love Aldi. Do not skip this video, because the changes happening at Aldi today could directly affect the way you shop tomorrow. The time when Aldi did not need to change. Why did everyone want to come back? Anyone in America who has shopped at Aldi for years probably understands why this store can become so addictive. Aldi does not give you more. It cuts away almost everything, and somehow shopping becomes easier. A 25-cent quarter, a small store, mostly private label products. You do not get an entire wall with dozens of versions of the same item. But milk, eggs, bread, meat, vegetables, frozen food, and the basics you need for the whole week are still there. For someone just getting off work, still worrying about dinner, kids, and a pile of bills waiting at home that matters more than we realize, you do not need another 100 choices. You need to buy enough to stay within your budget and not spend half your day grocery shopping. This was the Aldi that many longtime customers knew. A store about 1/4 the size of a typical American supermarket, around 1,400 products, almost all private label. Many items had almost only as one option. Fewer choices sounds like a weakness. I actually think it was part of the reason that Aldi succeeded. When your money is limited, making the wrong purchase decision is still money lost. When your time is limited, comparing 15 versions of the same product is still time wasted. Aldi removed both problems. Quarter cart, bagging your own groceries. Fewer products, fewer services. Aldi never hid the fact that customers had to do more themselves. But the deal was very clear. I'll put the quarter in the cart, I will bag my own groceries. In return, do not make me pay for a complicated system I do not need. And honestly, that kind of clarity is even more memorable today. Shoppers know the rules of Aldi before they walk through the doors. There are fewer surprises at checkout, fewer things to calculate in your head, and a feeling that your budget is still in your own hands. But Aldi also knows that if everything's completely predictable, the store can become boring very quickly.
And then they had this plant stand for a whopping $24.99. And then we had some bulbs. But oh my gosh, the aisle shame almost got me with these herb planters. They even had a hard plastic bottom that all of them sat on. Isn't that so cute?
Look at her stopping at the plants. The aisle of shame almost got me. This is the clever part of Aldi. The family groceries are familiar. Aldi finds are there to surprise you. You come in for eggs and milk, then you might walk out with something that was never on your shopping list. That combination is what makes Aldi different from a discount store that only focuses on low prices, simple enough for people to trust, but still fun enough to make them want to come back. And then more and more people started wanting an Aldi closer to home. That is when the pressure started to appear to expand. Aldi has to standardize more. To become more convenient, it has to add technology. To serve more customers, it has to operate on a much larger scale. And the more things you add to a model that succeeded by removing things, the harder it becomes to keep the original experience exactly the same. That is what Aldi in 2026 is being asked to prove. What is happening with Aldi that more customers are starting to notice? Just scrolling through TikTok, Reddit, or Facebook discussions about Aldi recently, you will find many longtime customers saying the same thing: Aldi does not feel like it used to. Some complain that prices have gone up. Some say certain familiar products are no longer as consistent. Some even say that if Aldi keeps changing like other supermarket chains, they will shop somewhere else. But even in those same discussions, many people still say they love Aldi, still shop there, and still hope to have a store closer to home. It sounds contradictory. But the numbers behind Aldi are even more interesting. In 2026, Aldi plans to open more than 180 new stores. By the end of the year, its US network will move closer to 2,800 stores, and the company is aiming for around 3,200 stores by the end of 2028. Aldi also said around 17 million new customers visited its stores in 2025, and 1 out of every 3 American households shopped at Aldi that year. So this is not a chain being abandoned by American shoppers. Aldi is entering one of its biggest growth periods in the US. If you used to have to drive a long distance to reach an Aldi, more than 180 new stores is not a meaningless number. It could mean another grocery option on your way home from work, one less weekend driving trip, or finally having an Aldi close enough to become your regular store. But new stores are only part of the story. Customers are seeing Aldi change right on the shelves.
Aldi has 4 new items you absolutely need to try. This is the first time I've ever seen it at Aldi. Wild Alaskan sockeye salmon. Sure, they have lots of salmon here.
He picks up wild Alaskan salmon, and then continues finding products like wild scallops, chickpeas, and red lentils. Items like these create a very simple possibility for shoppers. Maybe you do not need to visit a second store anymore. If your family wants more variety at dinner and needs more protein options, or is simply tired of buying the same few things every week, Aldi is trying to keep more of that demand inside its own stores. And the pace of new products showing up is pretty fast.
As someone who grew up eating baked ziti like once a week, I'm very offended by this, but let me know if you try this and if it's any good. 2 new frozen pizzas, either Mediterranean or Tuscan chicken, and then $4.95 for these chocolate chip ice cream sandwiches that look really good. Definitely grabbed one of each of these sweet potato chips, so they're cooked in avocado oil. Definitely looking like a dupe for Jackson's. Another very interesting item, I think, this week, sriracha brioche buns. I cannot imagine what those are like. Hot honey or cinnamon churro cornbread. I tried both of these. They're both pretty good. Worth a try.
Mediterranean pizza, avocado oil cooked chips, sriracha brioche buns, hot honey cornbread. Just a few seconds shows a whole range of very different products. To be honest, if Aldi helps me solve another dinner without needing to stop at another store, I will take that convenience. And I think many families feel the same way. A single afternoon can already include work, picking up kids' medications, cooking, and bills that need attention. Removing one stop means removing one more task. But Aldi is not only adding new products. The items customers have bought for years are also changing how they appear in front of you. Aldi is rolling out at the biggest private label packaging refresh in its history. The Aldi name will appear more clearly on many products. Familiar labels like Clancy's Simply Nature and Specially Selected are still staying on some product lines, but Aldi wants shoppers to recognize more clearly who is behind those products. By May of 2026, around 60% of the new designs had been completed and sent to suppliers. For new shoppers, this might just look like a bag with a different design, but if you have bought the same product for years, you know how powerful the habits can be. You recognize the package color, see the logo, and grab it. Now some items look different, and you have to stop and check whether this is actually the same product you always bought. I understand why Aldi wants to do this. When most of the store is private label, putting the Aldi name more prominently helps make the brand clearer. The only problem is that every time the company makes everything more consistent, long-time customers have to relearn part of the store. And in 2026, the changes are also moving directly onto your phone. In March, Aldi launched a new website and app nationwide with deeper integration with Instacart. Shoppers can search for products, receive suggestions, add recipe ingredients to their cart, and then choose pickup or delivery. If you are busy all day on taking care of elderly parents unable to drive easily or living far from a store, this may matter more than any new packaging. In the same discussions we looked at, some people said they depend on Aldi delivery because they cannot drive to the store themselves. Aldi also announced that it will remove another 44 ingredients from some private label foods, vitamins, and supplement products, with updated formulas being introduced gradually through the end of 2027. Put everything together, and Aldi in 2026 is changing where they open the stores, what you see on the shelves, how familiar products look, and even how you order groceries from home. Most of these changes have very understandable reasons, and many of them really can make shopping at Aldi more convenient. But doing all of this at the same time also means Aldi is making a very large bet on its next version. So why is Aldi accepting such a difficult challenge? What is happening in the American retail market that is forcing a model that was already winning to change this quickly? Aldi is no longer competing on price alone. $134 for 1 week of groceries, and still over budget.
So this is everything that $134 got us at Aldi this week. I'd love to know what you guys spent on your groceries for the week. I feel like we got a lot of stuff, even though we went over budget, but like I said, I'm not mad about it because food is fuel, and I hope you guys have a great day.
This is everything that $134 got us at Aldi this week. We went over budget. If you have young children, this sounds very familiar. Meat for dinner, eggs, and yogurt for breakfast, lunch had food, fruit, and a few backup items in case the kids refuse to eat what the adults are having. Nothing about that sounds luxurious. And yet, at the end of the trip, you still have to say, we went over budget again this week. That is the market Aldi is competing in. In July of 2026, food purchased for home in the US was still 2.7% higher than it was a year earlier. Gas prices were up 24.6%. Electricity costs were also rising, and housing costs were still going up. And I think if we only look at the 2.7% grocery number, it is easy to miss what is really happening. It is not just the grocery bag getting more expensive. The entire paycheck is being pulled in different directions by multiple bills at the same time. When money gets tight, shoppers react quickly. They switch brands. They wait for sales. They remove items from the cart. They split their shopping between multiple stores. A retailer does not need to make you angry to lose part of your grocery spending. Sometimes all it takes is another store helping you keep an extra $10 this week, and that should have been extremely good news for Aldi. Private label products in the US have reached around $330 billion in sales, making up 24% of consumer goods units sold. The more shoppers search for value, the more advantage a chain that has built itself around private labels should have. The only problem is everyone else sees that opportunity too. Target is adding hundreds of new private label food products. Big chains everywhere want customers to believe they can also give you something good, affordable, and worth buying without paying extra for a famous brand name. Aldi once had a playing field that was almost designed specifically for it. Now competitors are entering that field one by one, and the competition does not even wait for you to drive to the store anymore. In July of 2026, online grocery sales in the US increased 21.5% compared with the same period a year earlier. Delivery created about 60% of that growth, while sales at physical stores declined by 2.6%. If you order groceries after the kids are asleep, shop during your lunch break, or do not want to make another trip after work, the store that wins your order is not necessarily the closest store. It is the store that lets you finish shopping before you even start feeling annoyed. So Aldi cannot just be cheap anymore. It has to have products people want, to be close enough, be convenient enough, deliver to your home, and have a strong enough supply chain behind it so products are still available, while hundreds of new stores are opening at the same time. We know why Aldi has to change. But is that the whole story? It would be easy to blame everything on inflation, competition, and technology. That would make Aldi simply a company that's trying to catch up with a market that changed the rules. But it would not be honest to ignore the harder reason the shoppers themselves are asking Aldi to become something different. We want prices to stay low, but we also want better products. We want stores closer to home, but we do not want Aldi to lose its identity. We want more choices, but we still want to shop quickly. We want pickup delivery and easier checkout, and we still do not want to pay more for all of those things. Aldi is changing, that is true. But Aldi's customers are changing too. And in the next part, that is what we need to look at directly. Aldi's hardest challenge is not coming from competitors. It is coming from shoppers. To be honest, we cannot keep looking only at Aldi competitors or inflation anymore. Some of the pressure forcing Aldi to change is coming directly from the people pushing carts through its stores. We often say we miss the old Aldi, but if Aldi truly kept everything exactly the same as it was 10 or 20 years ago, many of us would probably be the first ones to complain. We still want low prices, but the meat has to be better. The produce has to stay fresh longer, the ingredients have to be better. The familiar products need to always be on the shelves. And if we see a new product online, we also want to walk into our local Aldi on the weekend and actually find it there. In other words, we are no longer shopping based only on price. We are shopping with an entire list of expectations. Choice is the clearest example. Nobody wants to walk into Aldi and stand in front of 40 different pasta sauces, but try making the pasta sauce your family has bought for 3 years disappear. At that point, fewer choices is no longer an advantage. You have to visit another store, spend more time, and wonder why Aldi could not keep that exact product available. That is the difficult contradiction. We do not want Aldi to have too many things. We just want Aldi to always have the exact things we need. But the exact things needed by millions of families are not the same. Checkout is the same way. Sometimes I just want to scan a few items myself and leave quickly. But when the cart is full of groceries for the entire week, nobody wants to look up the produce codes, deal with machine errors, and wait for help. The same customer. 2 different shopping trips. 2 completely different needs. So when we say Aldi needs to listen to customers, the harder question is, listen to which customers? The people who want self-checkout, or the people who want cashiers? The people who want more new products, or the people who simply want their favorite items to never disappear? The people who want everything inside an app, or the people who just want to walk in, buy milk, and leave. Technology makes this conflict even clearer. For someone with a car, good health and plenty of time delivery may only be a convenience. But for older adults, caregivers, or people with limited mobility, it can be the only way to keep grocery shopping manageable. Then there is that expansion. Customers want Aldi to be closer and more complete and faster. But as Aldi grows, another concern appears: do not turn Aldi into a chain that looks like every other retailer. And that is the hardest challenge. We want Aldi to do more, but we still want the feeling of shopping at Aldi to stay almost exactly the same. We want a higher quality but still low prices. We want more convenience but do not want the store to become more complicated. Every new request comes with a real cost: money, employees, technology, logistics, and time. Aldi has to change in order to survive, but it also has to make customers feel that these changes are serving them, not making them pay the price for Aldi's growth. The cost of turning Aldi into a bigger brand. Aldi is entering a stage where every additional thing customers ask for creates a new challenge behind the scenes. One small example that reflects this change is pickup. A customer who uses pickup about 70% of the time at Aldi questioned a new fee that appeared. And this is not really a story about our own data analysis. What matters more is how customers' shopping habits are changing. Pickup started as a convenience that made shopping at Aldi easier. But for someone to place an order with just a few taps on a phone and receive their bags, Aldi has to build an entire system behind the scenes. Employees picking the items, inventory management, technology, order processing, and transportation. Customers see the convenience. Aldi has to handle the complexity they never see. And this is the biggest contradiction. Customers want Aldi to become more modern, but they still want Aldi to keep the thing that made them choose Aldi in the first place: good value for their money. Expanding stores creates a similar challenge. Aldi can open hundreds of new locations and give more people access to the brand. But opening more stores is only the first step. The real challenge is making sure every store still delivers the experience customers expect. Because shoppers are not buying groceries from an Aldi network. They are shopping at the Aldi near their home. If that store is missing familiar products, checkout takes too long, or the experience no longer feels convenient, customers will not see Aldi's expansion strategy. They will only see that today's shopping trip was not as good as it used to be. This is Aldi's biggest contradiction. The efficiency that helped Aldi win smaller stores, fewer products, lower costs, and simpler processes. But as Aldi adds more products, develops online services, expands stores, and serves more types of customers, that same simplicity that becomes the thing they have to protect. Even changing packaging and building a clearer brand identity has two sides. For Aldi, it is a way to help customers recognize their products more easily. But for people who have shopped at Aldi for years, shopping is also built on familiarity. They remember which products are worth buying, where items are located on the shelves, and which products they grab almost automatically. A small change for the company can be a step forward for the brand, but for longtime customers, it can also be another moment where trust has to be rebuilt. And quality creates the same challenge for Aldi. Customers want better products, better ingredients, and more choices, but they still want the prices that make Aldi different. When Aldi puts its name on more products, every success or disappointment comes back to the same brand. A great product, customers remember Aldi. A disappointing product, customers also remember Aldi. So Aldi's biggest challenge is not whether it knows how to change. It does. The harder question is, can Aldi add everything customers are asking for while still protecting the reason people chose Aldi in the first place? Because behind every new service, every new store, and every new convenience, there's a real cost. If Aldi does it well, customers will only see a better Aldi. But if complexity starts showing up in the bill, the waiting time, or the shopping experience, the growth itself could weaken the very thing that made people love Aldi. Aldi once changed retail. Now retail is changing Aldi. At this point, when we look at other markets, a contradiction starts to appear. The more successful Aldi becomes, the greater the risk that it could lose the very thing that made it successful. Aldi entered the retail industry with a very different approach. They did not try to build the biggest stores. They did not try to put customers in front of dozens of choices for the same product. They won by removing what was unnecessary and focusing on a very simple promise: good prices, good enough products, and an easy shopping experience. But as Aldi expanded beyond Germany, that formula started facing new challenges. Every market has different shoppers. In the UK, Aldi had to compete with chains that were already deeply connected to people's everyday lives. In Australia, they had to convince customers that fewer choices did not mean less value. In the US, they had to compete in a market where shoppers were already used to convenience, huge product selections, and massive stores. To grow, Aldi had to change. But every time it changes, the same question appears: how much can Aldi adjust before it loses what makes it different? This is a challenge that many value-focused brands around the world face. When a company is small, simplicity is an advantage, but when it becomes a major brand, customers start expecting more. They want low prices, but they also want convenience. They want fewer choices to make shopping easier, but they still want to find exactly what they need. They want a brand to grow, but they do not want it to become like every other large chain. And that is Aldi's hardest contradiction. Success forces them to serve more people, but the more people they serve, the more they have to add things that can make the model more complicated. Looking at the international picture, the question for Aldi in America is not just how many more stores they will open or how many more services they will add. The bigger question is, when Aldi becomes a bigger brand, will customers still recognize the Aldi they once loved? What does Aldi need to change, and what can it never afford to lose? I have shopped at Aldi long enough to understand why so many people love this place. But because of that, I also think Aldi cannot survive only on memories from years ago. Retail's always changing. The way we buy food is changing too. Today's shoppers want more, faster, more convenient, and easier. I do not want Aldi to stay still and get left behind. I want Aldi to expand. I want more families to be able to walk into a nearby Aldi and feel like they are getting real value for the money they spend. But there is one thing I think Aldi has to be extremely careful about. Aldi does not need to become another Walmart with lower prices. It does not need to become an Amazon with more choices, because that has never been why people chose Aldi. What makes Aldi special is the feeling of simplicity. You understand what you are buying. You understand why the price is low. You do not need to spend too much time making decisions. So if Aldi adds technology, adds pickup, and adds new services, I think that is a good thing. But those things have to make customers' lives easier, not turn shopping into a more complicated process. I also think Aldi needs to protect the most important thing: trust in its products. When customers buy an Aldi private label product, they are not just buying something cheaper. They trust that Aldi already chose a product that is worth their money. If packaging changes, formulas change, or new products appear, what customers need is not just a brand that looks more modern. They need to know that what is inside still deserves that trust. And shoppers have a role too. The new Aldi may be different from the old Aldi, so instead of only remembering the past, we need to look more carefully, compare actual prices, check ingredients, pay attention to quality at the store we usually shop at, and speak up when the experience changes. A good brand is not created only by the company. It is also protected by customers who care enough to ask questions. I still want Aldi to succeed. I want to see the retail industry continue to exist, continue to change, and continue to serve people better. But I hope Aldi remembers one thing: they are not loved because they are like the giants. They are loved because they are different. Does the Aldi we walk into today still feel like the Aldi that made so many families love it? A brand cannot stand still forever. Aldi has to change to adapt to the way we shop new technology in an increasingly competitive market. But the most important thing is not how many new stores Aldi opens or how many new services it adds. What matters is, after all these changes, do customers still feel that this is a place they can trust, a place where they know they are getting real value for their money? What about you? What keeps you choosing Aldi? And is there anything about the new Aldi that feels different from before? Share your experience below. This channel was created to listen to real stories from real consumers. Every perspective you share matters. Subscribe to the channel and continue following along with us.